From LALATE News headquarters in Santa Monica, this is the Midday Report on LALATE.
It's a big midday here from LALATE, direct in Santa Monica about your fourth stimulus check update of 2021. In this recording, we have breaking news you're hearing for the first time at noontime. It was not even on mornings. As Bernie Sanders talks about the potential to get a deal, and he says two provisions need to be in there. This is breaking. It was part of my commentary on mornings, and guess what? Bernie may have been watching because he said exactly what I said during my commentary about 2 hours earlier. Then, where are we going? Democrats are trying to figure out where that RECON is going, and they're worried about two governor's races next week. Why? I have the latest details. Then, the price is right, 1.7 to 2 trillion, but is 1.5 part of the equation suddenly? I'll have the breaking details on that as well. Then, student loan debt, more debt could be forgiven, and more programs in and out. Programs that we thought were in and fine, Bernie Sanders says, no, that's not going to work. It's not enough money. I have the latest details. Then, student loan debt, more debt could be forgiven. I have the breaking details on this. And then, as we go into the exciting details about fifth stimulus, it's coming right behind us. And that is your big lifts if you're on SSI and SSDI. The latest breaking details of that is more. And then, I have more about my commentary. I guess my commentary is working because this morning, live on air, I said, this is what they need to get done. And guess what happened? Minutes ago, Bernie Sanders says, you don't do these two things, we ain't going anywhere. It's like we are one in another. I'm just going to start wearing mittens on set and you'll think I'm someone else. I have the latest breaking news from Bernie. Ron Wyden minutes ago. It's brand new. And it follows those shocking statements I had from Joe Manchin 2 hours earlier. It's all happening. It's all right now. It's all deliciousness. And it's noontime on LALATE. Hey, good noontime, everybody. Hope you're having a beautiful day. And yes, a deal's happening, but I told you something has to be agreed upon. Two programs. Otherwise, we won't get from point A to point B today. Guess what Bernie said minutes ago? The same thing. Oh boy. The price is right. Is 1.5 a possible number? I'll have the latest analysis of what's going on with this. Programs in, programs out. One program in, and Bernie says, yeah, who cares it's in? It's not paying enough money. You need to pay more money. Student loan debt, more money could be forgiven, and then COLA raises and the money across that as well. In the morning video, I delivered my commentary of the situation. I'll be bringing back my commentary because guess what? Bernie Sanders in the halls of the congressional building minutes ago was asked about the status of the RECON, and he referred to exactly the same thing I said during my commentary. And this is noontime on LALATE. Subscribe. 400,000 subscribers, a YouTube record, and 140 million views in 1.5 years. I want you part of this incredible family. Like the video, 3,000 likes, and consider becoming a member. Purple Hawk, Purple Parrot, Calcino VIP. Let's go right to this RECON. The RECON is $3.5 trillion when passed in the subcommittee 3 weeks ago. It's not going to stay at $3.5 trillion. It has three clusters of checks, but the pays to you are still going to be about the same at the moment. View of this channel will get on average about $15,000. As soon as it becomes law, I'm going to show you how to get this money. This $15,000 approximately is if you're single, if you're married, have kids, don't have kids. On benefits, don't have benefits. In a red state, in a blue state. That incredible money is spread across three clusters of checks and the potential three add-ons. Let's go over each of those clusters of checks and the updates now at noontime. Paid family leave and elder care. Hazard pay. Hazard pay, we have no update about this. We believe it may still be in there. Broaden the eligibility for earned income tax credit, increasing the amount of money. The elder care may fall under one of the provisions for seniors. So we have a belief it may be still in there. That's $4,000 a year and more money as well for children's care. Then the Pell Grant remaining in there. We do have an update about that. That is the college students' money. The Pell Grant being made tax-free And the grants to university and the students staying in there as well. Great news about that. Their home repairs, free home repairs if you live in a low-income community. We believe they're in there because they're part of the housing provision, and that survived. More about that in a second. Then the CTC, the child tax credit, not staying at 5 years, coming in at 1 year. $60,000 or less, $3,600 or $3,000 a year for that low-income family. We have no updates about the bikes, cars, and trucks. We believe they're in there. 15% for the purchase of a new electric bike, U.S. made. $7,500 for the purchase of a new electric vehicle, U.S. auto manufactured, personal use, a little bit more if it's for business use. As we turn to the first add-on, great news, of course, about that one, which is the Maxine Waters add-on. Maxine Waters is overlooking housing, and housing has a lot of provisions. She wants to provide $25,000 for the purchase price of a new home for first-time home buyers. That's not happening at that price point, $25,000. May have survived, but we do know that the rest of the housing provisions from Maxine Waters survived. Maxine Waters went $300 billion. Third recon was at $47 billion. This was all out as of Thursday. She got it back in there. It's coming in somewhere between 100 to 200 billion. I have it laid in this video. It will be the housing, the home repairs, the housing, the rent aid, the mortgage aid, and similar issues like that. Let's go to the second cluster checks to see which ones survive, which ones are in, and which ones are out, and the breaking details at noontime. Paid family leave, medical leave, still in there. But really dramatically different. I have this lay in this video. Second half of this video, stay with me. Child care programs, household tax credits, believed still in there. Pre-kindergarten, believed in there. Tuition-free community college, struggling to survive in there nominally. And then money to weatherize your home. Yeah, that is believed to be part of the money from Maxine Waters for the home money. That's surviving. That's great news as well. Then we come over to the money for the add-on of $250 billion for those seniors and those people on disability. Great news on this one. This survived. What is this? This is the home health care. If you are disabled or you are a senior, you need home health care. The president ran on this for his presidential campaign. He wanted $500 billion. Bob Casey, great guy, wants to give you a monthly IRS stimulus check. He wanted $250 billion, not surviving at 250, but it is surviving. They can do less years of it. I have more about how many years of it and the price tag later in this video, which brings us to our third cluster of checks. And this is where the battleground is, and this is where the big battleground will be all day long. Let's go to the third cluster checks and have the rundown of each of these in this third cluster. Okay, here we go. Free school meals for all checks. I believe it's still in there, but no update. Cheaper prescription medication. Surviving, but not correct. So I'll explain that, and this is breaking. This is brand new news at noontime. Surviving, but not correct. Farmers, we don't know yet. Free internet, we don't know. We presume it's surviving. Clean energy, definitely out. Independent contractors, we don't know yet. And Medicare expansion, which is dental, vision, and hearing, surviving, not the right number. And lowering eligibility age and Medicare expansion, surviving, but not solved yet. I'll have the latest details what this means coming up in a second. But that brings us then to that MSC, that IRS monthly stimulus check. You really, I wish you could see this video from Bernie Sanders, which you're going to hear about in this recording. It's breaking news. It's just minutes ago. It's Bernie Sanders in the halls of Congress walking, and the reporters got him for a quote because there was no quote. Even an article I cited this morning, they said, I want a quote. There was no quote. He was so revved up. I know Bernie's always revved up. He was really revved up. He was so revved up. That should be how you feel about the MSCs. You should be the antithesis of the donut guy. You should be revved up. Donnie, who was one of the first viewers who picked up the phone and called Bernie Sanders' office after Brother Joshua got that comment that it would be in there. He sent me a very nice message just a second ago on Instagram saying, tell the viewers they need to be calling. If they're not calling, they're not doing their part. Thank you, Donnie. Donnie and his wife sent that message minutes ago. Let's go over what's at issue. Everyone's program is under fire. Everyone's fighting to keep their program in there and the right amount of money. On Mornings LALATE, I told you prescription medications in there and survived. And I said it's the Medicare Plan B prescription medication. Bernie just came out and said, hogwash, they ain't going to cut it. That's not good enough. So it shows you that you should have that same mentality for the MSE. The MSE is an add-on, and that add-on can be added on the House side or the Senate side. Ron Wyden embodies that because he's been introducing legislation all this week about how to fix tax issues that he looks to add on the Senate side. You have two places to add it on. Well, actually, three places. Before a House bill, after a House bill, before a House vote. That's where a lot of House members like AOC Omar, Jalapal, who are not part of the negotiations, say they're going to add stuff in. You get the House bill, we're going to look at it and say, you left it out, I'm going to add it in there before the House vote. Then we have the two-day vote-a-rama. The Senate has the final 2 days to vote on stuff. That's the Senate vote-a-rama is embodied by Ron Wyden. He, yesterday and today, has been introducing stuff, and I have stuff from him just minutes ago, where he says, you know what? You don't take care of it on the House side, I'm adding on the Senate side. And we have Liz Warren. You can have a quote for her in the second half where she says, I hope they do it well. She says, I hope they do it well. Meaning she's not part of the negotiations. Meaning she looks at it and it's not right, she's going to fix it. And she's done that before with Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer represents to the viewers of this channel like Donnie's wife 2 weeks ago, and Debbie Applegate 1.5 weeks ago, and another viewer last week. He's adding it on the Senate side. When the bill gets over to the Senate from the House members don't put it in there. The senators represent they're going to put it in there. But listen, you can't sit back and say, I advocate in the month of June or I advocate in the month of July. That's fine. No, everyone is battling on the hour, by the hour, to get provisions in there. Maxine Waters lost $300 billion of rent. It was for housing, gone. She got it back in there at $100 billion. She's pushing. It got up to $170 billion. Bob Casey got nothing for home health care. It was gone. $500 billion, gone. Poof. He pushed the guy back in there. It's back in there. It's a little bit less. So you got to push. And then we had that big encouraging statement from the number one senator of the entire RECON pushing his chief of staff, saying that message to us. Let's read that message right on air before we go over the breaking details of at noontime. And boy, there is a lot of breaking details today. The message from the chief of staff says you need to advocate. They now have in total, between congressional and senatorial offices, received more contacts of advocacy from the LA Purple Power than the number of signatures. Everyone's amazed by the outpouring of stories. They now have a better understanding of what Americans are doing to get through this pandemic. They have heartbreaking stories, and they have the voice. They have heartbreaking stories in the LA viewers. And now they have the voice of the people across the nation in you, LA, because you have been too loud to be ignored. Please continue your continued advocacy as a professional voice for the people until this becomes law. That last message is a message for me and for you. It's saying continue to encourage people to do their advocacy as you have become the professional voice of the people, LA, and encourage them until this becomes law. Absolutely. This is about us. This is about you. No time or place to say, what day is it landing in my bank account? What is landing in your bank account? We don't even have a recon yet. We don't have a formalized agreement. We have prescription medication under fire. We have dental, vision, hearing under fire. We have paid leave under fire. Everything's under fire. No time to sit back and just turn that remote control and say, when does it land in my hand? You need to advocate. The second half of this video, we'll see Bernie Sanders fuming. I'm going to reincarnate. I'm going to try to do my version of Bernie Sanders to show you how that video looks, what he said, what he's reacting to. I had the shocking comments from Joe Manchin this morning. I had the silence from Kristen Sinema. I had the great news from Ron Wyden. And I have the reactions across the board. I have breaking news comments from the press secretary of the President of the United States and the President of the United States himself. It's a lot of breaking news, and I'm going to try my best to get through all of it. It's coming up the second half of this video. Get ready. It'll be back with you in 60 seconds. If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.la.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LALATE Daily for the excitement of the new LALATE live daily. The excitement starts on Mornings LALATE at 9 a.m. Home LALATE returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LALATE at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LALATE. And the excitement continues right now on Noontime LALATE. I have breaking news just minutes ago. I don't even think it was on broadcast media yet. It was Bernie Sanders reacting to the comments from Joe Manchin this morning and the negotiations. And why are Bernie Sanders' comments exactly what I said on mornings? I have the latest details. LA told you so. Americans don't know that the RECON exists. Why is this RECON part of the equation of a Vermont and another state's governor election next week? I have the latest details. The Price is Right. But is 1.5 right? The reaction to the news about a 1.5 RECON price tag? It's coming out. Then programs in, programs out. This is where the meat and potato of this recording is, and I'm going to start with it as well. As Bernie Sanders says, it's in, but the number's wrong and it ain't going to last that way. Wow. Student loan debt, more debt could be forgiven, and then the big raise of COLA, it's coming up. And in the later part of this video, I give you my commentary. If you saw what happened on Mornings LALATE, you know what's going to happen right now. On Mornings LALATE, I gave a commentary at the end of the video where I said you need to get right to this part of the RECON right now and solve it today, and if you don't, you have an issue. And guess who said that minutes ago? Bernie Sanders. So subscribe. 400,000 subscribers, a YouTube record for a reason. You see the news sometimes before it even happens, like you did on Mornings LALATE. Like this video and consider becoming a member and get that newsletter tonight at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Let's go right into the details of what Bernie Sanders said minutes ago. It's breaking news you're hearing for the first time at noontime starting right now. Boy. Bernie Sanders walking in the halls of the congressional building, I believe it was the Senate, and he was stopped by reporters. And this is what he said. He said, when millions of Americans are asked what government needs to do for them, there's two things on people's minds. This is my quick transcription of a video interview released minutes ago. He says the number one thing on people's minds is the following: not having cheap prescription medication. Americans are being ripped off by pharmaceutical companies. We're paying 10% more in this country than in other countries around the globe for prescription medication. Pharmaceutical companies have 15 lobbyists right now in Washington trying us not to know how much it costs for them to make the medication so that we don't know how to do the formula. They're working against us. Any bill must have a real Medicare negotiation to a lower prescription medication in there. That's the number one thing on people's minds. The number two thing on people's minds is that we are the wealthiest country, and yet people have no teeth in their mouth and cannot afford to have teeth in their mouth. They have no hearing because they cannot afford to have hearing aids. They cannot see because they cannot have paid animals. Any RECON must have serious negotiations for expanding Medicare to dental, vision, and hearing. Thank you. And as he walked away, Mano Raja asked him, is that a red line? He did not answer. What is a red line? Meaning it's a non-negotiable. Of course it's a non-negotiable. You don't even have to answer the question. On Mornings LA, what did I say in the very last 2 minutes of this video? During a new section I call in this video called commentary, I give you my insight, the perspective of what's happening at that very moment. I said the Democrats have a real big issue right now, which is dental, vision, and hearing, seniors aid, how to expand Medicare. Joe Manchin wants it, Bernie wants it, everyone wants it, but they can't agree upon how to do it. Until they get that done, you don't have a RECON getting out of the 98% finish rate to the 100% finish rate. You have a RECON that's 98% done, but the last 2% is this being held up. Don't focus on community college, which is easy. Focus on this one. Now let's go over some of the more comments that are coming breaking right now at noontime. Ron Wyden reacted to Joe Manchin's comments this morning. So let me give you Joe Manchin's comments first, so you know what Ron Wyden's responding to. The White House asked about the issue of the president not being around to do the negotiations on the RECON. Are the reporters watching me? Because that's exactly one of my biggest pet peeves at the moment, the president leaving town. The press secretary says there's phones on Air Force One and there's phones in Europe, so he'll be able to engage. I think that's a junk of an answer. I'm sorry for press secretary. That's a junk of an answer. That she's making a joke about it, that there's phones, they can pick up the phone and talk. I don't think that's a very good answer, and I'm not pleased whatsoever with her answer on it. And she should be ashamed of herself. National Secretary Jake Sullivan was asked that if it looks bad, the president's going overseas, not having a deal on the whole recon first. And he says it's not going to be a big issue. All right, now let me go back over what Joe Manchin said this morning and compare it to Ron Wyden. Joe Manchin appeared before the Economic Council of Washington, D.C. It's like a Lions Club, like a Rotaries Club breakfast. Went there. They asked a lot of great questions, and he likes to talk, and he likes to tell you what he thinks. So you got a lot of detail out of him. For the first time since Sunday, Joe Manchin was invited to Delaware by the President of the United States to negotiate on the RECON. We now know that not only was my reporting correct, but very correct. Why? On Monday morning, the number one broadcast channel in America, I'm not going to say which channel it is, but it's sort of like an animal, sent out a feed that said there was a deal in Delaware at 1.7 trillion. Not only was there no deal, and it wasn't even 1.7, the president got nothing done on Sunday, we now learn. Joe Manchin, during that meeting with the president, there was one exchange which was fascinating. During the exchange, Joe Manchin was very, very smart, very, very good with numbers, was sitting with the president having breakfast, and the White House aides of the president were at the meeting. And the president said that the president's attempt to do this IRS bank reporting scheme where banks have to report how much in deposits you're getting to trigger an IRS investigation. Joe Manchin turned to the president and said, "Do you understand how messed up that is? That Uncle Sam is going to be watching?" I told him, this cannot happen. This is screwed up. Then, at the point that Manchin said that to the president, with the White House staffs having, their bacon, they had bacon, not me. Manchin says everyone started looking at each other and said, who the hell came up with this provision? Then at that point, the president looked at his staff and said, I think Joe's right. Joe Manchin's right about this. This one needs to be out. What's at issue? What's at issue is how to pay for the RECON. The provision, one of the big provisions to pay for the RECON is corporate taxes. Joe Manchin loves it. President wants it. And wealth tax, billionaires tax. Joe Manchin likes it. The president likes it. Why did the president bring Joe Manchin to talk about provisions Joe Manchin already agrees upon? I don't understand this whatsoever. The IRS bank reporting scheme is a way to get Chris and Sinema on board. And Joe Manchin told the president, it doesn't work. You can't do it. It functionally doesn't work. There's the concept of it doesn't make sense. The president said, yeah, it doesn't make sense. Who in my staff came up with this junk? Well, guess what? Ron Wyden, who is the number one senator for tax issues, is fuming angry right now. This is this afternoon, after the comments from the Economics Club. Ron Wyden says, oh no, we're going to have a strong provision to ensure we have a real tax enforcement. We have a lot of billionaire tax cheaters. Here's the issue. No one can figure out how to do this. And if you can't figure out how to do this, how do you do a RECON? This is all breaking news. This is all in the last few minutes. If you haven't heard what this is, let me tell you what it is, because I haven't heard what it is either until right now. Democrats, are you ready for this? You remember how much the last stimulus check was? $1,400. If you put it in the bank, guess what the Democrats say that would trigger? A bank reporting to IRS because maybe you're a tax cheater. Excuse me? Democrats were looking to have banks trigger a reporting to IRS if you deposit more than $600. More than $600? What are you talking about? More than $600? So if you deposit a stimulus check, you're going to have to get a reporting to IRS because maybe you're a cheater. Now they're trying to push it up to something like $10,000. Very, very peculiar. They can't figure this out. And imagine you can't figure this out, then there you are. So, wow, very, very fascinating. What you're seeing new at noontime is that prescription medication and Medicare expansion is a battleground. Now, we learned a little bit more about the Medicare expansion from Joe Manchin. Let me jump right to what this Medicare expansion problem is. When we talk about the seniors aid, it's encompassing three items. First, expanding Medicare. Second, dropping the Medicare eligibility age. And third, the dental, vision, hearing. Joe Manchin wants all of that. But the problem is with the first one is the Medicare expansion. The president wants it in 50 states. All the Democrats want it in 50 states, including Joe Manchin. The problem is that the Republican-led states won't be paying for it and be giving it free to their citizens, and that state won't be paying for it. Joe Manchin says it's not fair to my citizens of West Virginia that I'm paying for Texas or something, or Florida that doesn't want to pay for it. So he says you need to figure out a better way to do it. People have not figured this out yet. It's like, come on already. Get this thing figured out. This is why there is big battles right today. Medicare and social expansion is a lifetime to people back in West Virginia, but you got to stabilize it first before you basically expand it. You need to be fiscally responsible. What does he mean, Joe Manchin? That's Joe Manchin. He says, this is a service. It's not fair that some states are getting it 100% and don't have to pay for it. Texas, Florida. Why are states that are Democrat states like New York, West Virginia, California, we got to pay for Republican states that don't want to pay for it? He says it's not fair. He's absolutely right across the board. So now let's go to where the next stop is on the equation. The next stop in the equation is really trying to figure out how to get this recon from 98% done to 100% done. What's at issue is that 98% of the policy is done, and maybe about 80% of the drafting is done. The drafting is becoming a big issue. What are Democrats, both progressives and moderates, agreeing upon? We need to see this written up. For the first time ever, everyone's agreeing upon something. You want to extend prescription medication, drop medication, prescription medication prices? Great. Then you look at the language. Oh, you're only doing Medicare Part B? No, Bernie Sanders ain't going to like it. I said that was a good thing earlier on this morning. Apparently, Bernie Sanders says that's not enough. You need to do more than just Medicare Part B. So, and let's go into all the programs right now, and let's go over what happened about an hour before the time of this recording. You see, there's a lot going on. I'm going over what happened just minutes ago, and then I'm going to go over what happened before that. Manchin was asked during the meeting this morning what his price tag is, and Manchin said, "Well, I'm still at 1.5." Still at 1.5? Wait, you're not at 1.5, Joe. The reason why this is a big issue is because how many programs are removed every time you change the price tag. The price is right. Where are we on price? $2,171,500,000. Let's go over the numbers. President of the United States, Joe Biden, is still at $2 trillion. There's one thing good about Joe Biden: he does not move. He does not move his feet. He is pretty dug in. So he's dug in at $2 trillion. He hasn't moved. The progressives said they would go to 1.9. After 1.9, they feel wheezy. They said 1.7, but today Joe Manchin brought up 1.5 again. The problem is that if you're going, the programs in the recon that are surviving at the moment are about $100 to $200 billion each. So if you're looking at 1.7 to 2 trillion, that's a $300 billion drop. That lose about 2 programs. You go to 1.5, you lose even more programs. Let's go over some of the comments that came in today. The president had told Joe Manchin, unbeknownst to us, that he would like to have Joe Manchin and Bernie Sanders in a room. And what did Joe Manchin say about this? Manchin said this morning. The president said a couple of weeks ago, I would think that Joe and Bernie need to be in the same room, but I think it would be homicide. Well, they did meet several times last week, but did not get an agreement, but they did get along. Here comes a very strange comment. I'm going to read the two comments. I'm going to read both of them together. They're contradictory. They make no sense because they're said by the same person, Joe Manchin, during the same lunch, the same breakfast, Economic Club of Washington. Let's hear the first comment. I said to Mr. President on Sunday in Delaware, this is Joe Manchin, that I look at government differently than you. I think government should be my partner, not my provider. Excuse me? So the government shouldn't provide us anything? But then, in the same breakfast, he said, Jalapal and I agreed we need to make sure we take care of everybody. So wait a second. Do you even know what you're saying? 1 second you're saying you're not a provider, then the next second you say you have to provide for everyone. Here was a little bit of shadiness. He said that he loved meeting with Jalapal. I never knew her, and she didn't know me. And I explained to Pramila. I said, Pramila, you represent Silicon Valley. I represent people who are struggling in a state where people are struggling. A little shady there? I think it is. He's basically saying you represent a very rich bunch of people. I represent people struggling. We have different points of view. So his point of view, don't give money because people are struggling. Her point of view, my people are very rich, so I am going to provide money. Just very strange way of phrasing things. Understand, Jalapal wants to provide an IRS monthly stimulus check, and she is representing Silicon Valley, according to him. Very, very strange choice of words. Then, Chuck Schumer spoke today, this morning. He says the final deal is within reach. Notice how the phrasing is a little bit different. Last week, the phrasing was, we're going to get it done by the end of this week. Now the phrasing is, it's within reach. Let's go over some of the reactions today. Jalapal spoke this morning and said that nobody should take progressive votes for granted. You can interpret the words as you wish. I think she's saying, don't take out the bread and butter of the Progressive Party from this recon. Otherwise, there's big trouble. The vast majority of our priorities are in there, but there are a couple areas where they're still not the case. That's why Bernie was fuming mad. Steny Hoyer says, we want to act like we're winning. Americans won't believe it if we don't. Well, you can't act like you're winning if you don't have a recon done. Then Bob Casey says it's sort of frustrating. Bob Casey's a guy that wants to give you a monthly IRS stimulus check. He told Lorica. He says frustrating. It's simple. It's simple as hell. It's simple as that. Where will the bill land? Where is the robust investment? We hope it'll be a robust investment. But there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen, says Veronica Escobar. Price tag 1.5. Not what the president is agreeing to. And 1.5 infuriated Mazie Hirono, Democrat of Hawaii today. Said she's not happy. I'm not happy with it. I'm open-minded about my position, the ultimate bill. You draw a red line and then you're stuck. And I'm not interested in getting stuck. Considering that we need 50 votes to get anything done, we're in a situation where one person can do it. I like the comment from Jim McGovern, Democrat from Massachusetts, says, I support the roads and bridges, but only if there's an agreement on the recon. Yes, well said. Liz Warren sort of embodies the situation right now, which is deal. Well, she's not part of the negotiations. Liz Warren, who is not part of the negotiations, like Hirono, says, I just want to see a good deal. Haven't seen it yet. I just want to see a good deal. Notice the verb tense. She doesn't have it yet, but she's optimistic across the board. It was very fascinating. I'm going to go right to this quote right now. This quote was my commentary on the morning show. The quote was that print media are starting to run the Jalapal Bernie Sanders quotes from about 2 months ago. And my commentary on Mornings at LALATE was, I want to see if Jalapal and Bernie come out fuming mad today. And finally, he did. That's why I'm very excited. Why? Because when you hear Joe Manchin going to an economic Rotary Club type chatter this morning, having breakfast, saying, I'm still at 1.5. Jalapal said on broadcast media a month ago, that price will not happen. That was her quote. She'll never agree to 1.5. So Sanders also said that dental, vision, and hearing is not negotiable. It's a red line. So I said on Mornings LA during the commentary, I want to see Bernie come out and be fuming mad. I want this situation solved. Less than an hour after that recording, Bernie came out. So obviously Bernie saw the same interview I saw from Joe Manchin and said, no, we got to get this done. Joe Manchin's in favor of dental, vision, and hearing. But who is not? Chris and Sinema. More about that in a second. Let's go over where the programs are right now, which are in and which are out, the situation and the fluidness of the situation. Let me go right to the senior aid. Medicare expansion, I explained. The problem is if you're doing it, let's go to programs in, programs out. If you're doing the expansion of Medicare, you need to have all 50 states pay their fair share. And Joe Manchin is absolutely right. You can't have the state of West Virginia paying for the state of Texas. You can't have the state of New York paying for the state of Florida. You have to have all the states paying for it. So they have to figure out how to do the language. Next, the dental is a problem, and it's not anyone's problem. It's a problem of implementation. Nancy explained it really quite well. Dental has a problem that if you approve it today, it takes 5 to 6 years to implement it. Well, what are you going to do with your teeth for the next 5 to 6 years? You need some money for that. And over the last 3 days, I've told you, one of the solutions they proposed for this is vouchers. When I first said vouchers, I made a joke about it. What's wrong with vouchers? Is something wrong with it? I've now said what's wrong with the vouchers. It's only $800. $800 doesn't cut it. As Bernie Sanders said just minutes ago, people don't have teeth. Guess how many teeth you can get for $800? In Los Angeles, I think one tooth you can get for $800. Yeah, $800 is nothing, an annualized voucher of $800. So that doesn't solve the problem. I don't know how much hearing aids are, but $800 if you're going to do that for a hearing aid, doesn't count it. So you have to do something different. And you have to do a bigger voucher if you can't get dental into the plan right away. Bernie had said into the weekend, not coming out. The expansion of Medicare dental, hearing, and vision is one of the most popular provisions. And Omar, who of course is House, said not coming out as well. So let's go over some of the provisions one at a time. Let's go down the running list where we are right now, which ones are in, which ones are out, and what they look like. The provisions start with the paid leave. Let's start with the paid leave. The situation right at the moment looks like the following, that paid leave is in there, but it's definitely different than what we originally thought. Paid leave will be approximately 4 years. Here we go. Paid leave will be in there 4 weeks, low income only and employees only. I'm not happy with that at all. It was supposed to be 12 weeks for everyone, including self-employed and gig workers. At the moment, paid leave is struggling to stay in there at 4 weeks for low-income and employees only. Child care tax credit, 1 year only, $3,600, $3,000 if you make $60,000 or less. Free community college, definitely unclear, either out or 2 years. Pell's Grant surviving, that is college grants made tax-free, and then the grants to university. Prescription medication. You've already heard me cover the problem of the prescription medication. On Mornings LA, I said it was in there, good, and that it was just for Medicare Plan B. Bernie says that's not cutting it. So things like this are beyond my sophistication level. I don't know what's bad about the fact it's only for Medicare Plan B. Bernie understands that a little bit better than I do. That's not enough for prescription medication, so it needs to be broader than just Medicare Plan B. Clean energy out. Childcare in. Great news on that. Childcare in, but not as broadly. I had a wonderful comment from someone on Instagram saying on private message, tell viewers to advocate. Health insurance is so important. I just got canceled. I couldn't afford it. We need health insurance. It's going in there. Shorter than initially thought, but going in there. Housing aid, which is great, which is rent, mortgage. It is also the home repairs surviving. It was out on Thursday. It's back in. It's $175. It's not the $300 they wanted, but it's in there about $175. And the home care, I'm so happy this is surviving. This was one of the president's platforms for running for presidency. It's in there at 100 to 200 billion. This is Bob Casey's provision. He wants to give you an IRS monthly stimulus check. They wanted 400, but it's at 1 to 150. Great news on that. You see the running time. So let me jump over to student loan debt forgiveness. More student loan debt could be forgiven. and the president's offered $10,000. The Democrats should take it. They don't have to close the door at only $10,000, but they should just take that for now. This would be everyone's student loan debts for $10,000 forgiven. The president forgave 3 rounds of student loan debts in recent days. First, he forgave student loan debts for people who became disabled after graduation. Then the president forgave student loan debts for individuals who went to work in the nonprofit sector for 10 years after graduation. And the big one, big one, was the president forgave student loan debts for individuals who went into the nonprofit sector, public sector, city, county, and states for federal government for 10 years after graduation. So now nonprofit sector and public sector all forgiven if you've been that for 10 years after graduation. The Democrats should really take this last $10,000, the next $10,000 on well. It's not the last $10,000, as I corrected myself. It's the next $10,000. COLA raise is very exciting. Your benefits are going up next year because of the COLA raise, but it's not the only lift. You're going to get a lift if FIST stimulus becomes law. And guess what? They're talking about doing it just the last few days. One of the top Democrats met with Nancy Pelosi last week and said, we got to do FIST stimulus. And it's going to be great because it's benefits for everyone across the board. And it'll be also used against the Republicans during the midterm election. Done by RECON, of course. And let's go over the analysis of it. First, your benefits are going to go up next year. The check you're seeing right now, you're never going to have again. That smaller check, you're never going to see again. You're going to get a big new check. But we're not stopping there. Then they're going to raise you up again one big time under FIST stimulus. This is you if you're on SSI, SSDI, Social Security, railroad benefits, veterans benefits. Then they're going to apply a new benchmark. The new benchmark is inflation, which is going to be 1 to 3% next year. It's not going to be 0, which COLA may be next year. So you're going to get one COLA lift, then the first lift on a FIST stimulus, and then the new benchmark next December. They're going to remove the asset cap, remove the income cap, and remove the marriage penalty. Finally, if you haven't become a member, consider becoming a member today. The newsletter is under the video. The membership link is under the video. Become a Purple Hawk, Purple Power, or Calcino VIP, and get that newsletter delivered Monday through Friday via the YouTube alert system and the LALATE alert system. Due to computer errors, it was not sent out last night. It'll be sent out tonight. It features the big money under first, second, and third stimulus, which will return to the recordings later this week as fourth stimulus settles down. That money is still being paid out. Rent, utilities, mortgage assistance, homeless people in the shelters, appliances like refrigerators, furnaces, heaters, fixing broken windows, clothing, SNAP. These are among the items that are available under third stimulus or from the nonprofits, which are United Way, Salvation Army, Community Action, Catholic Charities. Consider becoming a member to learn that incredible information across the board. Earlier today, I delivered a commentary, and let me give you my commentary right now. It's strange that when things are so obvious, that the obviousness manifests in reality. On Mornings at LALATE, I delivered my commentary, which was that you need to really deal with the big part of this recon right now, which is a battleground. The Medicare, the seniors' money, dental, vision, hearing, and the prescription medication. If you don't deal with that now, you're avoiding the hardest final 2% of the recon. Yes, a recon was written and passed in subcommittee several weeks ago, $3.5 trillion. What part of that has to be written still? Well, nothing much on the front end for policy, with the exception of this Medicare expansion. On the back end, a lot of changes when we're talking about the revenue side, because they're still trying to deal with this tax implication issue. That doesn't really concern you, but that needs to be written. On the front side, yes, when you're doing Medicare expansion, you need to see that written up. And that's why Joe Manchin agrees with the progressives. We need to see this written up. Show it to us so we can look at it. Don't be doing memos or briefings or proposals. We need to have it written up in format. But the next most important thing is really this seniors' money and the prescription medication. You don't confront the biggest issue in the room, you don't confront the problem. And it's not particularly a problem, but it's the hardest part of the recon, and it is really the final 2-3% of the recon to be done. Then after you get that done, you can go back and start adding things in there. Do the hardest part first. I don't like that press secretary's comment that says the president has telephones overseas and she's heard there's telephones in Europe. It's very condescending. It's very disrespectful when the very big issue at hand is that the president has done a great job getting this recon moving last week, and now he's not going to be around. And now we see from Joe Manchin this morning that staffers are making a mess sometimes in writing some of these provisions. They're not writing stuff correctly. They're not doing things correctly. And the president's deferring to them to do stuff. And when he's not around, he doesn't realize it's wrong until someone tells him to. So I would like the president to have been in town for this. He's not left yet. So I would hope that with your pushing, your advocacy, everyone else saying, is the president going to work on this? That the president gets back into the room and starts hacking away at the stuff. Because these big 2% issues are critical across the board. Join me next on 1 o'clock's afternoon's LALATE show. It's coming up right after this video. Stay here and I'll automatically take you there. Then we got the 3 o'clock afternoon show, which was taped before this recording. The evening show will have a big update. So make sure you watch the 3 o'clock show and, of course, the evening show, the latest updates, and I'll have more about the Bernie interview coming up on Evenings LA. We got a lot coming up. The news cycle is changing literally every 60 minutes today. A lot of details, and that's why you want to stay here, so subscribe. But 400,000 subscribers is a YouTube record. Make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. Like the video, 2,000-3,000 likes. Consider becoming a member so you get that newsletter to learn all the big money under first, second, and third stimulus. Continue advocating. As Donnie said, pick up that phone and advocate. Don't say what day, where, when, or how. Need to advocate because everyone is fighting for their provision. Time to fight for yours as well. Stay informed, stay focused, have a beautiful day, and I'll see you next on the 1 o'clock afternoon's LA.